Dr. Atchison here, and we are talking about our chapter on the biology of the mind and consciousness. This lecture is going to be focusing on the brief glossary overview that we're going to do on the peripheral nervous system. So, we've already talked about the central nervous system. Now we're going to move on to the peripheral nervous system. So the central nervous system is what it sounds like, the central part of it, which includes our brainstem, our spinal cord. Our peripheral nervous system is everything else, right? So when you can feel things on your fingers, that's because of your peripheral nervous system. When you can feel the temperature in the air around you, that's because of your peripheral nervous system. When you can move your arms and your legs, that's because of your peripheral nervous system. So all those nerves that are going out to different parts of the body are involved in the peripheral nervous system. And this doesn't just involve our limbs, it also involves our organs and so our lungs, our heart, all of this is attached to the central nervous system via the peripheral nervous system. So we already talked about the brain and the brainstem. We didn't really talk much about the spinal cord, but that's that main bundle of neurons that's going to connect the brain, the kind of director, to the peripheral nervous system, which is where all those kind of actors will be. So the peripheral nervous system is what we're going to talk about today. And there's two different main parts of this that we're going to talk about. The somatic nervous system, which is our voluntary system. So when I am deciding to speak, my peripheral nervous system is using the nerves in my lips and my tongue and my throat to form these words, along with my lungs to express air, to make these words. It's a voluntary system. I'm deciding to move my face and hands as I gesture in certain ways. The autonomic nervous system is an involuntary system. So this is what's going to involve our major organs, breathing, heart rate. You don't have to remember for your heart to beat, right? It just does it. That's because of the autonomic nervous system. And there's two pieces of that we're going to really kind of focus on most here. Our parasympathetic system, which kind of calms us down, and our sympathetic system, which is an activating system. So the peripheral nervous system, again, connects the central nervous system to the body's organs and muscles. And in that somatic system, that's that voluntary movement, okay? So it controls the voluntary movement of our skeletal nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is that self-regulated action of the internal organs and glands. And so we're going to break that piece down a little bit more because it's a little bit more confusing. Somatic nervous system makes sense. It's where we can make all these things work that we want to work. We can bring the fork to our mouth to eat our favorite food. We can tilt our head to hear someone better. All these things that we can do in a voluntary way because our somatic nervous system and the control of our muscles. So our autonomic nervous system is again broken into the two pieces I briefly talked about. The sympathetic nervous system, which is again an arousing system, and the parasympathetic nervous system, that's a calming system. So if you see this breakdown here, this tree of our nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, the central nervous system we've already talked about. This peripheral nervous system breaks out into the two pieces, and then that autonomic nervous system breaks out into two more pieces. So again, in this arousing system of the sympathetic nervous system, this happens in a state of arousal, and this can be a number of different ways. This doesn't just mean sexual arousal, though it does include that when you look at, this is where ejaculation would come from in males, would be through the sympathetic nervous system. It also includes arousal in terms of emotional arousal. If you're scared, your pupils will dilate, your heart will beat faster. Because you're scared, your body's preparing to either fight or flight. And so your stomach stops digesting food because we can use that energy to either fight or flight. Our liver gives more sugar into the system because we're going to need that energy to fight or flight. our adrenal glands, which are again releasing these adrenaline that's telling us this is a fight or flight situation. It relaxes the bladder. This is why sometimes you'll see people who are highly aroused in terms of scared or something like this can have urinary discharge, because again, this muscle becomes relaxed. We're trying to focus our energy into the system that really needs it for survival. The parasympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, really is the idea of returning the body to where we're comfortable. It doesn't feel good to be in that heightened state of arousal long term. And so again, this parasympathetic nervous system really reduces that. So basically it undoes everything that the sympathetic nervous system does. So once you start to calm down, that's when your pupils are going to contract, your heartbeat's going to slow down, digestion will start back up, normal liver and gallbladder function will happen. We're going to have normal bladder function. And again, we're going to have more normal blood flow throughout the body, not just focusing in on certain body parts. As you can see, this is a male here, but we're going to have similar things in females as well. So again, the main take home here is that the sympathetic nervous system really arouses us so that we are prepared for whatever has caused this arousal, okay? Whether it be scared or angry or sexual or whatever has caused this heightened level of arousal, that we're prepared to deal with it. And the parasympathetic nervous system gets us back into that really comfortable state. So that's our brief overview of the peripheral nervous system. Thanks.